brings us to our next story, which is something everyone in higher ed has been talking about and worrying about.
And it's finally here. It's finally here, Michael. We've been talking about this enrollment cliff, it seems, forever. And the peak class of 2025, so this year's high school seniors, they are the peak class. The number of high school graduates is projected to peak this year at 3.9 million with that class of 2025. And after 2025, the U.S. will expect successfully fewer annual numbers of graduates in virtually every graduating class. Get this, all the way at least through 2037. And 2037 is projected to be about the same number as the class of 2014 with 3.5. So, kids and having kids is getting a lot of attention right now, and at least among the vice presidents, or I guess in the presidential election overall. And I think colleges are probably cheering that on because they need people to have kids.
Yeah, no question. I think to some extent, Jeff, maybe this all wouldn't have been as big a deal as I think it's shaking out to be if, our colleges were breaking at the seams with students, right? And the numbers going to college and they were over capacity, right? Like just turning away students at their doors. But instead, that's not the picture, as you know better than I do. Students graduating from high school, going directly to college, had dropped from the high of 69% to 62% at the most recent checkpoint from the data there, which has left the opposite picture on college campuses. A whole lot of empty classrooms, a lot of spare capacity. And that's before the numbers, as you said, start to drive back down again.
Yeah, Michael, I think that's a real key number that we don't talk about. We tend to talk about this high school graduating class instead of, okay, what is the percentage of that high school graduating class going right on to college? And as you said, right, it's dropped from 69% to 62%. So even if we were able to just keep it at 69%, we'd have hundreds of more thousands of students in that pipeline. And I think the question really should be like, what's happening there? Why has that dropped off? I really do think this is worthy of more research. But in between trying to keep my butt in chair to write this book this summer, I have spent some time with boards and senior leaders at DePaul and Penn State. I'm also spending some time with folks up in Canada, with college leaders up in Canada, because this isn't just a U.S. issue. And there's a few things I'm seeing here about why this direct high school to college pipeline is leaking so much. One is, this is largely a community college problem. We had the episode where we talked about the value of community colleges with Dave Clayton of Strata last year, and I encourage people to go back to that because he talked a lot about how we could increase the value, or at least the perceived value, of community colleges. This is a big issue among men, and again, I highly recommend Richard Reeves' book on what's happening with boys and men, and particularly in higher education. Again, if we could just get some of those numbers up, we would improve on this college going rate. I think many of us are also skeptical. Both of us, I think, are skeptical on the whole dual enrollment thing. We did a whole episode on that last year. But there's growth there, right? We know there's growth among dual enrolled students. How can we get more of those students in and through the college pipeline so that they are getting that degree?